These are the notes for 6th grade Advanced Language Arts on figurative language as part of the poetry unit. Today we're talking about figurative language and literary devices and how they are used in poetry and other forms of text. First of all, the use of figurative language is the use of words to affect a meaning other than the usual or literal meaning of those words. Authors use figurative language to make texts more interesting and appealing. Poetry is full of figurative language and literary devices. Today we'll be talking about some of the forms of figurative language and literary devices that are used in poetry and other forms of literature. The first one is similes. Similes are comparisons that show how two things that are not alike in most ways are similar in one important way. These are used as a way to describe something. Similes use the words as or like to make the connection between the two things that are being compared. For example, in the sentence, playing chess with Ashley is like trying to outsmart a computer, the word like is used to make the comparison between how it feels to play chess with Ashley and is comparing it to how difficult it is to outsmart a computer. Obviously, a computer would be able to play chess logically, and so therefore playing a chess against Ashley would also be very difficult. The next one we'll talk about is metaphors. Metaphors are figures of speech where an implied comparison is made between two unlike things that actually have something important in common. Metaphors use forms of the to be verb to make the comparison. To be verbs are verbs such as is, are, was, were, am, and became. In this example, the sentence, her eyes are homes of silent prayers. Her eyes are being compared to a home for silent prayers, using the to be verb are. Personification is giving human traits, qualities, feelings, actions, or characteristics to non-living objects, things, colors, qualities, or ideas. For example, the wind sang her mournful song through the falling leaves. Wind cannot sing, it does not have a voice. But in this sentence, you can hear the wind making its noise, and it's explaining that the wind is mournful and sounds mournful through personification. Idioms are another form of figurative language. An idiom is a word or phrase that cannot be interpreted literally. In other words, it has a different meaning than what the words actually mean. Idioms are usually very difficult for students or anybody who is an English language learner because they don't make any sense literally. For example, cat's got your tongue. This does not mean that a cat actually is holding onto your tongue. It just means that you can't speak because of shyness. Another example would be the phrase, a bull in a china shop. This means that a person is clumsy and easily upsets the balance, so maybe they would be knocking into things or breaking things very often. Imagery is another example of figurative language. Imagery is the use of figurative language that appeals to the senses, so your sense of sight, sound, smell, taste, and feeling. These are usually done through the use of adjectives and strong verbs. So, for example, in this paragraph or this excerpt, some words that are in purple are showing imagery. They're describing an aspect of the noun that is describing sight, sound, smell, taste, or feeling. Onomatopoeia is another form of a literary device. Onomatopoeia is a word or words that sound like the action or thing that they describe or represent. These are also known as sound effect words. Plus, onomatopoeia is just very fun to say. So some examples of onomatopoeia would be a tap at the pane, the quick sharp scratch, and the blue spurt of light of a lighted match. And that excerpt comes from Meeting at Night by Robert Browning. In that sentence, the word tap, scratch, and spurt represent sounds. Hyperbole is an extreme exaggeration, and it's used to emphasize a point or add excitement and humor to a story. So some examples of hyperboles that you may have heard in the past are, I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. Obviously you can't really eat a horse, but that just shows that you're so hungry that you could eat a large amount. She is as big as an elephant. And I have a million things to do before dinner. Do you really have a million things to do, or is that a bit of an exaggeration? These links can provide you with some additional explanation of hyperboles, which can be kind of funny and interesting. Thanks for watching the notes on figurative language, and we'll talk about them in class tomorrow.